please. We're going to get started in a few minutes, so if everyone could make their way to their seats, in about a minute, we're going to go ahead and start the program. Thank you so much. All right. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. It is good to be home. I always say that. To walk in this room and to see the transformation that has taken place where I used to sit, my family members, my friends, my former colleagues, and my constituents, thank you all so much for being here. We'd like to welcome you all to tonight's Candidates Forum. I am Representative James Robertson from House District 39, which consists of the northeastern corridor of Wake County. That includes parts of Raleigh, Knightdale, Wendell, Zebulon, and I have a snippet of Roseville. And I will serve as your moderator this evening. So thank you all for joining us for this important opportunity to hear directly from the candidates who are seeking office. At this time, I would like to invite our mayor, Jessica Day, to come up and share a few remarks. Mayor?
Good evening, everyone. It is great to see you. Thank you so much for coming out. It's good to see the room full this evening. As he mentioned, I am Jessica Day, and I have the honor of serving as the mayor for this wonderful town that we call Knightdale, North Carolina. And tonight we have the pleasure of formally getting to know the town council candidates who will be representing your concerns and looking for your support at the ballot box next month. It was important to me, as well as each one of them, to take the time to directly address issues important to all Knightdale communities. At its heart, local government is about service. It is about listening to the needs of our community. It's about understanding the challenges we face and working together to find solutions that improve the daily lives of our residents. Unlike any other level of government, local government is closest to the people. The decisions that are made here about public safety, economic development, infrastructure, and community spaces directly shape our quality of life. Leadership at this level requires not only vision, but also humility, collaboration, and commitment. It means making choices that may not always be easy, but that reflect the values and the priorities of the people that we serve. It is less about titles and more about trust that our leaders will show up, will listen, and will act with integrity. The primary role of a town council is to represent its residents and to ensure their needs are met by setting local policies, overseeing municipal functions, and fostering economic and environmental well-being. Here in Knightdale, those policies are governed by 5 focus areas that make up our strategic plan. The plan, adopted in November 2019 and updated in 2023, clearly communicates the message of who we are and what we want our town to be in the future. Those ideals include being a community that is safe, a community that is active and healthy, that is connected and inclusive, sustainable, and fosters operational excellence. As you spend time with each of these candidates this evening, listen for these foundational principles. They will serve as the foundations for service delivery decisions, capital investments, and other initiatives for our town. So I want to thank each one of our candidates tonight who came out. Thank you for engaging with everyone. And I want to thank, as I mentioned, everyone tonight here for taking the time to come out and to listen. Lastly, I want to thank our moderator, and I will pass it back to our former mayor here in the town of Knightdale and our now state representative. And I say to Mr. James Robertson, welcome home. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Day. All right, before we begin, we would like to go over a few important guidelines to ensure that the forum runs smoothly and respectfully for everyone. Please take a moment now to silence or turn off your cell phones. Out of fairness to all candidates, no signs, banners, or campaign material are permitted inside the forum space. If you have any questions for the candidates, we have a person here tonight, my intern, Alexis Fisher. She's a student at NC State, so for all you Wolfpacks, I know you're excited. Alexis has joined us recently, and we're excited to have her on board, and she's doing an excellent job, and what a way to get your feet wet. So again, thank you for helping out this evening. All right, so please write your questions clearly on the cards that Alexis has passed out, and we will collect them throughout the evening. And if time allows, I, the moderator, will present a selection of these questions to the panel. Each candidate will begin with an opening introduction. They will also have 3 minutes for their opening remarks. A timer will be visible, and you will receive a warning when you have 30 seconds remaining. During the moderated question and answer portion, candidates will have 90 seconds to respond to each question. The timer will again provide a visible countdown, and a signal will indicate when your time has expired. At the end of the program, each candidate will have 2 minutes to deliver a closing statement, and a signal will indicate when time has expired. To ensure fairness, candidates are asked to respect the time limits. So at this time, I would like to introduce our candidates. We have Grady Bussey, who is not here, but has a written statement, and so we will have, are you going to come up and read it? Not yet? Okay, so we can go with the rest of the, okay. So we have Grady Bussey, who's not here, but he has written a letter, and that will be read a little later on in the program. We have Steve Evans, Shannon Russell Hardy, Latacius Morris, and Mark Swan. All right, so at this time, we will move to the opening statements. As a reminder, each candidate will have 3 minutes to introduce themselves and share their platform. We will begin with, is this where you come in? We will begin with a statement from Grady Bussey. Come on over. All right.
Good evening. My name is Rachel Morris, and I'm the Community Relations Director for the town of Knightdale. I will read to you tonight the statement from Grady Bussey. Open letter to the residents of Knightdale. Dear Knightdale residents, I want to thank you for your continued interest in this year's town council election, for creating opportunities to hear directly from your candidates. I also want to acknowledge the upcoming Knightdale Town Council Candidates Forum as one of the important spaces for dialogue and civic participation. Unfortunately, I will not be able to attend the forum. At that time, I will be fulfilling my responsibilities as a professor of a civic engagement class. In this class, I teach citizens how to become stronger leaders in their communities in an effort that I believe deeply supports the values that the forums like this represent. My commitment to preparing the next generation of engaged leaders is part of why I'm running for town council. Even though I cannot be present in person at the forum, I remain committed to transparency, accessibility, and open communication with the residents of Knightdale. To learn more about my platform and endorsements, please visit my website, www.gradybussey.com. Thank you for your understanding, and thank you for your active role in building a stronger Knightdale. With respect, Grady Bussey, candidate for Knightdale Town Council. And I do want to say, as every candidate speaks, we will have a slide up for you to see, and it'll have each candidate's contact information too, just in case you need to take a picture of it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rachel. All right, for the candidates that are here, we'll start with candidate 2, Steve Evans.
Do we have, okay, so we can press and this stays on. Well, first off, I want to say thank you. Thank you to each and every one of you that took the time out this evening to come and to hear about those of us that are seeking to represent you here in Knightdale. It is a huge honor that I've had to be in this seat and to serve the citizens of Knightdale, not just through the time of being an elected official, but also previously when I served on the Land Use Review Board, when I had the opportunity to chair that, as we look at one of the needs and one of the greatest challenges that we recognize in Wake County, which is growth. You know, when I was preparing for tonight's candidates forum, my wife asked me earlier, she was like, so do you know what you're gonna say this evening? And I was like, I do not. But what comes to mind comes to mouth. But that was really her delicate way of saying, don't embarrass me. So in lieu of that, I would like to recognize my beautiful wife and thank her for her endless support, the countless evenings that she has endured where I've had differences in plans and scheduling. Even tonight, today is my birthday. I have reached the, thank you. You know, I'm sure she would have much rather preferred that we were at some foo-foo restaurant somewhere, but she understood the commitment that I have to the service of my community. And in the spirit of not, you know, embarrassing her, I would like to acknowledge how she is draped in pearls right now, looking like a cross between Barbara Bush and Diana Ross. She is my girl. But in all fairness, you know, this work is about service. Several years ago, my wife had me to actually take one of those love language quizzes. And one of the languages that I scored the highest on was acts of service. And it's interesting, it meant something to me then, but I also interpreted it as more me receiving acts. But honestly, I am more of one to give in service. You know, I recognize that my hobby, as strange as it may seem, is civic service. For 30 some odd years now, I've had the pleasure of serving individuals. I started in 1993 being appointed to the Human Relations Commission in the city of Rocky Mount, just down the road. I'm a Rocky Mount native. From there, I, after 3 years, was appointed to the planning board for the city of Rocky Mount, and in 4 years' time, was nominated chair of the City of Rocky Mount Planning Board, the first chair to not be a developer or a realtor, someone that was really speaking about the needs of the community. And that same commitment has carried forward from when we moved from Rocky Mount here to Knightdale. My immediate desire was to get engaged and get involved in seeing how I could make my community a better place, or at least be participatory in that. Is that my end?
That's the end.
So thank you, and I look forward to having more discussions with you later tonight.
Thank you. I was wondering how that was going to work. And I have yet to go to my optometrist. I have yet to go to my optometrist this year, and so there's no way I could see this little clock over here. So anyway, this is great. This is good technology. So thank you. All right, next we will hear from Shannon Russell Hardy.
I'll be the front. Wait, don't start that. We did acknowledge with the time and having difficulty to see it, so we
Boy, aren't we relaxed this evening? Let's go.
Thank you, Rachel.
Oh, okay. I'm Shannon Russell Hardy, and I have lived here since 2001. I have 2 kids that I raised here. My son was born and came home from Rex to our house in Planters Walk. My daughter was 2 when we moved here. Moved to Knightdale Station in 2019 and have had like this extraordinary experience. Like through sports, through the schools, extraordinary experience as a mom. They're 22 and 27 now, and I can't say enough. How many times we were at the pool, like this is Mayberry. Like great memories of us cheering when there was a target coming. All the things. And the kids, like even Dax, his first internship was here in Knightdale. He was the first cohort in the Public Works intern here, which I didn't even really think about until I came tonight and everyone said, tell Dax hi. I was like, oh, okay. So he's more famous than I am here. But as a community member, I had these spaces where I think I felt like there were just voids, and so I stepped in and I was the East Wake soccer manager for a team, or the swim team volunteer manager, or Knightdale High needs a PTA president, and then I was like there for 9 years between the 2 kids, and all those spaces, and then the kids grew up and I was an empty nester, and it's like, oh, you should be on the East Wake Education Foundation board. And so I now am on that board, and I'm a teacher. I've been a teacher for 32 years, social studies, math, ELA. And I feel like, I guess you were talking about your love languages. For me, Enneagram is one of my favorite things, if anyone's done that, and I'm a challenger. And a challenger, if you don't like challengers and you're an authoritarian, you don't like us, because we're always asking questions, and not because we're trying to mess things up, but because we're curious and we think things can be more efficient, or we think that there might be another path or something more creative. And so when Stray Bullets went into Knightdale Station, I was the challenger who led that group. 1 minute, I hope, okay. So I was that challenger who led that group, and we collaborated as residents. It was bipartisan, we worked with the NRA, we did it all. And then when the Robertson development is coming in behind us, and we found out there was only 1 egress. Again, that is sort of the space that I'm pretty good at building consensus and collaborating across groups and finding people who are stakeholders and people who know more than me. And events like our tax increase and our reevaluation of property really were hard for me as a public school teacher. I had to get a second job. And it just felt like I need to stop complaining and telling people what I think they should do and maybe throw my hat in the ring. So I'm here tonight. I think I have a lot of experience. I remember Mayberry, the Mayberry part. I am aware of the traffic. But I think I can offer a lot as a mom and as someone who works with children and families.
Thank you. And now we will hear from Latacious Morris.
Good evening. I am Latacious Morris. I currently sit on the town council as a council member. Prior to that, I was appointed in January of 2021, and prior to that, like Mayor Pro Tem Steve Evans, I also served on the Land Use Review Board, which I found to be super helpful in this journey that I am on right now with town council. I don't know if I would actually be sitting here and being as confident as I am had I not been on the Land Use Review Board. And I know some people in this room can probably attest to that, because I see a couple of our members who are also on the Land Use Review Board. So I am also a past HOA, been on my HOA board for my community as the treasurer at large, and also in the capacity of, I believe vice chair at one moment, vice president at one moment, like quick journey. But if that isn't good enough, then I'm probably in the most hated profession, which is actually the HOA property management. So I know most of y'all can attest that you do not care for your HOA management company. It's not me. I promise I don't have any communities in Knightdale on purpose, but that's what I do for my full-time day job. I am also in a master's program for public admin and nonprofit administration. And so my calendar is very full and very busy, but what I do appreciate is that I always take time out to participate with my community, and that community is Knightdale, and it is very important to me, and so much so that I also joined Rotary Club and became secretary of Rotary Club. So I don't think I have enough on my plate. I'm looking for more stuff. So if you know of anything else community-based, let me know. But that's just me, and I just want to say thank you for being so interested in your local elections, because they are just as important, if not more important, than your state and federal. So thank you for being here tonight and for being so interested in your community.
Thank you. And finally, we will hear from candidate 5, Mark Swan.
Good evening. Thank you all for coming out. Thank you for participating, being interested. Thank you for the organization, those that organized, and our moderator. And thank you to the participants for being here and participating. When you first run for any office, I would recommend that you write down, and I read this in a book, I didn't make it up. I would recommend that you write down your reason, your why. Why do you want to run for council? For me, it was greenways and sidewalks. I wanted to be able to walk and bike more places. That was in 2013, so it's been a while. And so there's more than just that. And so as you spend time, in the planning board capacity, I did that, and then as a council member, you learn how much more there is to the land use pieces of it, and the rights versus your responsibilities, and trying to balance those things, trying to establish a diverse tax base, working on board dynamics. You would be amazed at the difference in results you have based on the board dynamics at any given time. The how also matters. Focus on, we want to focus on making Knightdale better, but we do that by collaborating through consensus. The relationship did not happen by accident, and so it takes work to build that trust and respect. And so I think the current council is doing a fabulous job. We have a lot of successes under our belt. I wrote these today. Panther Rock Park, 2 new fire stations, renovating the police station. I think we got 3 new playgrounds, although 2 of those were replacements of equipment. Greenway extension. So for more information, I'm usually the shortest one. For more information, you can go to votemarkswan.com. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mark. Okay, we will now move into the moderated question and answer portion of the forum. Each candidate will be asked the same set of questions. Each candidate will have 90 seconds. I repeat, 90 seconds to respond. We will begin with candidate 2 for the first question, and we will then rotate the order with each subsequent question so that every candidate has a chance to respond first. So we'll start with the first question for candidate 2. The question is, what qualifications or approach to the town government make you the best candidate for this position?
I'd like to emphasize that I don't get caught up in best candidate, because we are electing 3 council members, and I think what I would want to see is 3 diverse candidates that are going to bring different perspectives so that we're accessing every opportunity. So in my case, I'm not sure. I think I'm the only mother that is a candidate, and then also that is on council. There hasn't been a mother on council yet, or for a very long time if there was. And I think that experience has been really defining for me. Like that, that's why I'm still in Knightdale. Like, this is where I raised my kids, and we're attached. And so that, I think I bring that unique perspective of trying to get to childcare, racing to Lockhart from downtown before 6 o'clock because I'm gonna have a $10 fee. All the things, like collaborating, working out carpools, like all the things, finding a doctor, a dentist, the pieces we need to raise our kids here. And it's been extraordinary, and I want to make sure that we consider all of those things and more as we go forward with budgets. And I think I have felt like I've seen things where we're losing that piece of us, and feels more, and it's the growth, I know, but it feels more like a throughway for me, being here for so many years. So I hope I could bring that to council, bring that piece back from the past.
Thank you. I wanted to just clarify, not biologically, but yes, am a mother by adoption. So, yes, so, and also a grandmother, so, rocking both hats. But yes, diversity is definitely key. I do agree with you with that. I think what the approach for the best candidate, and again, agree with you, it's not the best candidate, but there are 3 seats, and we definitely want to make sure that we see inclusiveness and diversity across the board, but we also want to make sure that the people who are in these seats are well-equipped and knowledgeable. They have that background, that knowledge, that experience. They have been committed to previously working in the community, out there and about in the community, whether it is by an advisory board or attending community events and doing all of these different things, participating, getting out and talking to members of the community outside of your actual own subdivision. So when we talk about what that candidate looks like, you want someone who has really been doing the work. So I think that's what makes a good candidate, or the good candidates, I should say.
Thank you. Mr. Swan?
All right, so qualifications, I would say my commitment, experience, and integrity. I've got, this is a place I grew up. When I went off to college and came back, this is where I came back to raise my family, because this place took good care of me, and I wanted to come back and help give back. So I've been serving Knightdale for 18 years. That doesn't count when I was coaching or Cub Scouts or whatever. Certainly, with those volunteer activities. So that experience really does matter, like I said earlier, in how you manage through tough choices and how you recognize the trade-offs and weigh them and try and come to a solution. My integrity, I hope that is obvious. My church has trusted me to be their treasurer for probably 6 years or more. I'm a former president of the East Wake Education Foundation, so I've been involved a lot. Appreciate the time.
Mr. Evans?
So, as I mentioned earlier, I have been in the active service for over 30 some odd years. I have seen good government, I've seen bad government. At the time when I was serving in the city of Rocky Mount, we were in a high growth trajectory. Hurricane Floyd hit in '99, and it went to a slow to almost no growth. I've seen infighting, I've seen, ego-driven politics. I have always operated under the mantra. My mom told this to all 3 of us, my 2 brothers and myself. She wanted us to be outstanding without standing out. My service and my experience is about making certain that others don't necessarily know who I am, but they also feel comfortable that the government that is serving them is doing it in a way to where it's not creating publicity, it's not ego, strutting. And so, I sit in several leadership positions throughout national boards, local boards. In my corporate life, oversaw a personal department budget of over $18 million in personnel as well as in cash. I know fiscal management, I know governmental structure, and I can't say that necessarily I am the best candidate. I am the best candidate I can be for the needs that I see within my community. And I feel that I am bringing a unique approach to looking at what that is and making certain that everyone's voice is being recognized or realized in that discussion around how we move forward.
All right. Thank you. Next question. Knightdale is one of the fastest growing towns in Wake County. How do you propose the town balance growth while preserving community character?
So I think with that, we can all acknowledge that there's rapid growth here happening in Knightdale. We aren't the only ones that are suffering from that. When we talk to our constituents in the eastern area and other surrounding areas on the other side, we all are suffering from the same thing, and that is traffic and rapid growth. Unfortunately, that is just what's happening. I think we recognize that there are 66, on average, 66 people per day moving to Wake County alone, and at least 2 of those people move to Knightdale per day. So when we talk about rapid growth and while we talk about preserving community character, this is when we really rely heavily as a council on our comprehensive plan and our UDO. We use those as guides along with the experts here, which are our staff, and we really trust them. We work with them, we're committed with them to make sure that we're preserving areas of Knightdale, whether it is our public spaces, our parks, and different things like that, and trying to make sure that we utilize our connections with NCDOT and other departments within the state to make sure that we have safety concerns under control. So 90 seconds is not enough, I'm gonna tell you that, because they're just back there. But I just want to say that we do recognize that, and we understand that it is an issue. And so we want to make sure that as a town, we are committed to you and committed to making sure that we do preserve public spaces and keep some areas where they are that feel of that small community, that small town feel, where we're still trying to work, live, and play.
Thank you.
So I'll say, focusing on the placemaking, so while we may grow as a town, we can still have unique, special places throughout town. And so whether you are in a shopping area near Target, or you are in Old Town by the brewery, or the New River District, so these areas are all gonna be different in their own way. Harper Park is very different than Knightdale Station Park or Panther Rock Park. So that gives you that uniqueness. I really care about the uniqueness. The cow was a big thing for me. The connectivity, I believe in a walkable, bikeable nodes. So as you have those individual areas, places like Wide Waters where you can bike to the bus real easy and get where you need to go, helps take some of that pressure off. And so having those nodes where you have amenities nearby to residents in various areas makes those areas closer knit and giving them that feeling, while also providing options for other people nearby. I believe strongly in quality. We want these things to age well over time. That's very important, and I still support growth in town because we want to take pressure off that rural character that's around Knightdale. So not growing in town would mean pushing growth out to past our borders and get all the negative traffic with none of the benefit. Thank you.
So, as I mentioned earlier, right, I've worked in communities where they've had no growth, and now we're in a community where we have high growth. The complaints in no-growth communities is that we're not growing. The complaints in high-growth communities are that we are growing. Can we slow it down? I do think that we have had a great lens at looking at this in a balanced way, right? Commercial follows rooftop. Rooftops oftentimes want to be where commercial is. If you look at how quickly we were able to, or the spaces were backfilled for when Dix left, Academy came right in. Burlington was in the space next to TJ Maxx, and then Home Goods. I mean, you know, those are types of amenities that come with growth. But we also have a dynamic staff, and we have invested well in making sure that we have some of the top talent to help us navigate what this growth should look like in terms of creating, you know, the balance of residential to commercial. How do we also preserve land? Believe it or not, in some areas, it is actually a good thing when growth occurs because our developers can take some of the pressures off the infrastructure needs that we have with turn lanes and infrastructure improvements that DOT and the state would not normally have the means or the time frame to get to. So we're trying to look at what that formula is and continually tweak it as we go. And I actually think that we're getting there. It may seem a little lopsided at times, but that's the beauty of municipal elections, right? This isn't partisanship issues. I'm sitting in the same traffic that you're sitting in. So we understand and we'll keep that at front of mind.
I think that, for me, the UDO is great. Like, I'm living in one of the new houses. It's a great house. Great job. I think the plans are good. I worry about high-density housing and all of those pieces, but it's great. The problem is I feel like we haven't made those personal connections between these spaces. So placemaking means a lot to me. I'm often on the Greenway, but it doesn't mean as much when we don't have people in those spaces. And so one of the things when we were a small town, there was 9,000, I knew the mayor. You know, the mayors knew me, and I was just one of many, and I was in Planners Walk. I want to get back to that where we know key people, these mavericks, and that's what Malcolm Gladwell in Tipping Points talks about mavericks. These people who know a lot and know people and can connect and turn energy when maybe there's something that's concerning that's happening in a positive way. And we don't have those people, I don't think, in each of our communities and neighborhoods and HOAs so that we understand how things are feeling and how things are changing. I don't know if the town knew how much that those taxes impacted some of us. Some of us who lived here and raised kids and were very comfortable for a very long time, all of a sudden had to get second jobs because we didn't expect energy and HOAs and taxes to go up. And I think if we have those connections and we have a difficult decision as a town council and we build those relationships across churches, HOAs, PTAs, then we can then use them as a focus group and help us understand, well, what are the impacts we can't imagine?
Thank you. Next question. What is your vision for supporting small businesses and attracting new employers and businesses to the town of Knightdale?
So I would say it's me, right? I would say the best way to do that is to create the vibrant spaces with the people in them. So having those vibrant spaces where businesses can be very successful. So, Oak City Brewing is a prime example, prime is the prime example. But, by having that energy right there, it took off and they were very successful. Our job there is to make sure they have the information they need to be able to move through the process. And so, when they come to development services, we have top-notch staff that we're able to help them. I think we are making great progress. We've got 3 industrial parks, I think, maybe one. You could count another one that's been there forever, but adding new jobs that way. We've got the Launch Knightdale program, and we've got our new Knightdale Commerce Alliance. So that should help those businesses to be, as I told them the other night when they were launching it, I said, I want y'all to be wildly successful because you make us wildly successful and you make those vibrant places we want to be.
So I agree with Councilor Morris in that one of the things we've done, I think, extremely well is we've put that emphasis towards the development community to create these neighborhood nodes, which are basically small commercial out parcels or dedicated spaces to be built into commercial development. One of the things that you hear oftentimes in Knightdale, particularly from small businesses, is that we don't have the structures to go into. We do not have that intact downtown as a result of the fire that destroyed so many of the parcels downtown. So what we're trying to do now is create spaces where businesses can thrive. We've done a great job as a town. We are one of the leaders in sort of creating the Launch Knightdale initiative to really bring small businesses together and to help them to formulate what their plan looks like. Our community relations team has taken on the task in partnership with the Rotary team, Rotary Club, for the Knightdale Business Alliance, and the event they had the other night was a great showing of energy from small and local businesses. So this is a place where people want to be, and we're going to do all we can to continually create the spaces for them to have that placemaking here and to launch their businesses and create the economic dynamics that we know can be here.
Yeah, I was here back when the chamber was really strong, and it was led by one of our county commissioners. His wife is leading our chamber, and everyone knew her, and Jennifer, and we were all very connected. And again, we were only 9,000 people. I think that has struggled, and I really support what the town has done with the Launch Knightdale, with the entrepreneurial program. I know some small business owners yesterday who met with Josh Padgett, good hire. Like, those are the pieces that need to happen. And as a candidate, I don't see myself trying to challenge a lot of that work. I think that important work has launched. It's been thoughtful. It's been researched. I think that emphasis on small business is going to be our path. That's our storytelling that we're going to be able to tell as a town. I was looking for the lipstick. I was putting on my lipstick tonight and realized I was in Delaware this summer. My stepmother bought this high-end lipstick. It's made in Knightdale. Like, who knew? And I colored the way. Everyone write that down. But who knew? I didn't know that someone's making lipstick in their house, here in Knightdale. So I think there are a lot of things. It's the start something motto, I think, is a fantastic motto that we need to continue to carry on. I think there's a lot of creativity, a lot of young people. Our median age is 34. I think we need to really continue to take advantage of that. So I, in no way as a candidate, want to be critical of what's been happening on council, with the plans that have been made, I think that that is absolutely the path as we build these relationships.
Yeah, absolutely. I believe that I'm very happy to finally see the Knightdale Business Alliance come to fruition. We have struggled a little bit in that area as far as being able to help small businesses. So seeing that come to fruition, and then the event the other night was just amazing, and I'm glad to see that. Some of the other things that we've done is when we work with the developers, a perfect example is downtown North, where I know it seems like we're just building house on top of house on top of house, but that's not the case. Some of these developers, we really work with them and we really push retail space. And so what that is able to do is create a space for local businesses to move into and actually have an actual physical building, a location that they can sell their product in. And so being able to create these spaces for those small business owners to get their businesses started is amazing. Being able to do that. Knightdale is moving towards having all of these types of spaces created and constantly pushing that with the developer. And so it's just awesome that we can do that. And besides the Knightdale Business Alliance, and like we were saying, the Launch Knightdale program where we help businesses. I know Cake Town, it's crazy because Cake Town actually started in my neighborhood of Churchill, and I actually got her to make cakes for me, and so we built this, and next thing I know, she had an establishment, an actual physical building. And so again, watching these small businesses move through that process and being able to create their businesses and have actual buildings is just amazing. So.
All right, thank you all. What are the key challenges facing Knightdale?
I think the key challenges is one of the things that we talked about earlier, right, is managing growth. Making sure we get that formula tweaked just right to where we are seeing the growth that we can support. We're seeing the growth that also aligns well with the question that we just answered, right? How do we continue to create a thriving economic environment where our small businesses can continue to keep their doors open because the community is there to support that? I think the other thing that is a challenge in Knightdale is us, just as was mentioned earlier, making certain that we stay connected. At the end, as you grow, new people come in, there's always that concern about shifts in cultures and dynamics. And I do think that different does not mean we should always have differences. And so for me, it's about continuing to create opportunities where we can collaborate, whether it's events at the park or around town, that we can come together as a community and get to know our neighbors and get to share lived experiences in ways to where it actually brings value to us as a collective community. So those are the key challenges that I look at in terms of how we continue to manage that growth and then also communicate and be more connected.
The challenge that concerns me the most is the elephant in the room, and it's the one that we actually have no fiscal control over, and that's schools. But the single most important factor in deciding the value of our home is the quality of the schools around us. And we have parents who are sending their kids a half hour away, or they're trying to figure out private schools. We only have one private school, we have no charter schools, we have one magnet. 5 magnets rolled out last year, we didn't get one. They went to Zebulon and East Wake. And that really concerns me. One of the things that changed from back in the old days was when I first moved here, the school board representative for Knightdale served the whole town. So it was in their best interest to represent their towns, Knightdale, Wendell, Zebulon. Now our town's split across 2 school board members. There's no one school board member that is going to fight for us in our schools. And I can say, I know a lot about this. As a PTA president, I really understood the complexity, and I just think that we have to get a little noisy about that we don't have equitable spending. I was asked by the mayor many years ago, Mayor Killen, to start Knightdale 100, a collaborative group. We did, we advocated, we got an audit from Harvard University, third-party audit, where they concluded that Knightdale was underfunded compared to the rest of the town. And the response was, we got Hodge Elementary as a magnet. I think we're in the same place again, that we aren't making that noise, we're not advocating for our schools, and we don't have enough internal knowledge about that.
For me, some of the key challenges that we face, I think one of the top priority ones for me would be we struggle to engage youth ages 13 to 18. And so we really need to get more into that space. And so finding enrichment type programs and different things like that where we can engage that age range and probably keep them out of trouble in the summertime. I think some of the complaints we hear from HOA associations is kids push the pool furniture into the pool. So I think trying to knock some of that stuff off by giving them other things to engage in would be beneficial. Some of the other things that we have challenged with are public transportation. I think that is a East Wake issue altogether, not just a Knightdale area issue. And of course, safety, because that comes with safety, increased traffic. There are hot spots, different things of that nature when we talk about pedestrian crosswalk and making sidewalks safe and getting those taken care of. And then again, that one thing that's come up is preserving that community character, that small community character. Another issue is affordable housing. So these are all issues that we know are there and they're challenges, and we are, as a council, committed to continue working to push those issues and figure out solutions to them and work with not just our local officials, but like our federal officials, our state officials. It's a collaborative effort, and we are constantly doing that with our staff and working together to try and come up with some type of solutions, just like the affordable housing plan, the Knightdale affordable housing plan. So we know that they are there, and we are working on them.
Thank you.
Okay, first I just want to say I am thrilled that safety was not on the top of my list. So safety is the most important thing, but it's not the challenge that it could have been. So, you know, we've made up some ground there. I had 2 break-ins years ago, so it's always top of mind for me. Biggest issues, I think, is development pressure, obviously. And I'm going to say there's a perception of the schools problem. My kids have done pretty well in Knightdale schools. I've gone to some magnets and some in town, so it's just dependent on the child and what their interests are. But I really do think that the staff and the teachers in Knightdale are great. And I want to cheerlead for them and make sure that I get that message out because, you know, the results are based on the population that attends. And so as if we have disadvantaged population, you know, that Title I funding that gets, you know, free breakfast and free lunch that just disappeared, we need that. We need our kids to have that. So I think there's a perception issue there that is certainly a cheerleading option for us, a way for us to advocate. And obviously infrastructure and maintenance, you know, we want to make sure we're keeping up with all these beautiful things we build. We want to make sure we take good care of them.
Thank you. If given the chance to implement one thing in Knightdale, what would it be and why?
I've changed my mind, but I think for me, and I'm listening, because one of the things about me is I am a listener and I'm really curious, and so I get sort of sidetracked in my brain, start thinking about all the things you all are saying. But the one for me, and I think Letitia's already hit on this, is I think we're not being creative enough about how we reach our children, and actually probably all of us, and that is that Parks and Rec has mostly been in the past sports. And when the data tells us that all 4 of our elementary schools, only 40% of our children are proficient at reading, it tells me we have some sort of academic gap. Like there's some other thing, whether it's chess tournaments or whatever it is, robotics club or camp or stronger track out camps. I feel like there isn't enough diversity in how we're creating events or serving our children, and maybe even us adults and seniors. I have a lot to learn, obviously. But I've been following what's happening in Baltimore. The mayor's been really intentional this past year about just flooding the community with academic programming for children in their Parks and Rec. And it's had this huge impact already, statistically. Already their numbers are changing. So it's a family and success committee, and it's just been really interesting. And so those, like, who else out there is doing that? What is happening that's creative? Is a new way of reaching the community, reaching those needs, so that the schools aren't operating in isolation.
Thank you.
I would say for me, of course, one thing to implement would go back to that same thing is, you know, that youth engagement and finding pathways to incorporate some more programs for them. I have to say, I think sometimes when we think about youth engagement, we have to think about, it's always that old adage, and I grew up this way, it starts at home. It starts at home. And so we have to somehow get parents more engaged with not only the schools and their children and their education and the teachers, but we have to get them engaged in their community to get their kids out to these programs. And as Shane was saying about the academics, we have things like the story walk at the library where they can participate in that. And we have, you know, the enrichment and the STEM programs that our Parks and Recs has started doing on a regular basis. But what we're not seeing is that the kids are being brought by the parents to these programs. And so, yes, the kids are suffering, but we have to start acknowledging that it does start at home. But again, trying to engage those students more, I think we have to engage the parents, get them more involved, get them more active, and then we can start seeing these programs be more enriched with these kids in that age that we're missing, which is that 13 to 18 year gap.
So if we're talking magic wand, then I'm probably going to have a tram or a monorail right down 64 to get to Wake Tech and get to downtown Raleigh. More realistic, I'd probably go for off-street bike paths connections that are grade separated at all the major roads. I want people to be able, I want teenagers down to elementary school to be able to walk or bike to school. I think that's how you build, that's one way to build cohesive neighborhoods, is when you have people who are out and about and engaged with each other all the time, and they start to feel an obligation for each other. They feel connected and care about each other. Because that's where I think we're missing. Like, I don't know my neighbor's name on one side, and I don't really hang out much with the neighbor on the other side. So how do we get back out and engage with each other? I think that is what makes the community is the people, and so let's get those people together.
All right, so if I could have a vision board, I would love to see an additional sort of mainstream park or recreational area on our eastern edge, our western edge, I guess it depends on where you're saying, Hodge Road area. I think Knightdale Station Park is an amazing jewel of our community, but I also think that we need to have something to bookmark that as an additional place for residents to be able to get to have additional amenities. I think that also affords us the ability to really sort of create sort of a place of our town focused around engagement, outdoors, and recreational, as we are also developing, as we are getting into more urban centers. One of my original visions was a farmer's market, the re-envisioning of our farmer's market. I'm big in agriculture, and so a farmer's market was key. I know that our farms are disappearing. I hear that oftentimes, but here's the opposite side to that. Having been in agriculture, I'm also big on property rights. You can't make somebody farm the land that was farmland. If their vision has changed or their succession plan is no longer in place, then allow them to be able to realize what that placemaking or that property looks like for their future generations. So I just want to see us have more, like I said, balance in our growth throughout the community.
Thank you. As this population increases, so does the number of families with children with special needs and abilities. What would you do to support the needs of these families and their children?
One of the things that we can do is always make sure that our public spaces are ADA compliant. That is going to be a huge thing. Not having them compliant is going to be the biggest barrier or item that gives us the most trouble if we don't get them ADA compliant. And so we have worked really hard with that as far as with staff, making sure that all of our public spaces are ADA compliant. Harper Park is a great example of that. I think everybody on town council, we all fought really hard for that, and we're really excited to see it actually come to fruition. And the first day that it opened, just being able to see all the kids out there playing and doing all these things that they weren't able to do at Knightdale Station Park because it just wasn't compliant for them to be able to do that. And so, you know, whether it's kids with sensory issues or kids in wheelchairs or ones that have just, you know, they're on some part of the spectrum or whatever the case is. It was just amazing to see each and every one of them actually enjoying some part of that park. And so seeing that definitely makes you go, this is the type of thing that we want to make sure that our spaces are not always just connected, but inclusive and diverse.
Right, yeah, so to support those special needs, I think we want to have, first it goes back to that caring. We need to change the hearts of people. We need everyone to be better. We need more kindness so that any adult will try to help if there's a need there. Obviously, we've done the Harper Park. We included accessible options at Knightdale Station. I was surprised to hear, now I've got neurodiversity in my house, but someone with a special needs child said that Panther Rock has been really great for their child because just that natural space. Now, it's certainly not physically accessible to everyone, but you know, to have that diversity and that variety and have that emotionally connected place for children that need that outdoor, you know, just hand on the rock feeling. I think that does a lot of good.
So I echo all of what's been said, right? We have placed emphasis in this area when you look at Harper Park, when you look at the redesign and the place and the playground replacement at Knightdale Station Park. I think that we have a tremendous resource in our Parks and Recs staff that is responding to the needs of the community as they become ever present. I think as these populations and as our populations increase and as we see increasing needs around that, we will look at, you know, more collective sports engagements or activities. And so I don't necessarily say that it's not an issue as much as it is, it's one where we are willing to step up and to answer the call and to find a way to be solution-based in this area as we continue to address or recognize where those needs are coming in. And to just be mindful that, like I said, Knightdale is a place where we all want to have that sense of belonging, and belonging is big, and we want to make certain that anyone that's here is able to participate in whatever way that that means for them and whatever way they can. So hats off to our staff for continually looking at ways to be solution-based approach in that area.
For me, as a teacher, the most important thing we can do is make sure that we have resources for children before they get to kindergarten. Because once they're in kindergarten, they're in the school system, and they're phenomenal resources, they're professional expertise, and then those tools follow, and Wake County is extraordinary. But from birth to kindergarten is this gap. And my son needed speech when he was 3. And the nearest speech therapist was in downtown Raleigh. And so I had to get a neighbor, go to Kathy Lee's to pick him up to drive him downtown. It was this whole thing. So I think for us, the most important thing we can do is make sure that we have really strong pre-K programs, that they have access. Project Enlightenment goes to Wendell, and they test children in Wendell. Can we get them to come to Knightdale? Like, those are the pieces. East Wake Education Foundation started a classroom here in Knightdale. Knightdale's the only town that doesn't collaborate with East Wake Foundation in that way. They don't give any designated money in the budget. They don't give space. Zebulon gives space. Both towns give money to East Wake Education Foundation to make sure they keep classrooms there. And that foundation serves children 200% below poverty, children in foster care, and children with disabilities. And it's a free program twice a week. And so there are lots of things like that. And once you get hooked into those pieces, then you have access. We can recruit speech therapists. And we can identify those resources. So I just think it's really, again, more important to have these partnerships.
Thank you. All right. How would you improve pedestrian safety, especially when crossing Highway 64 or Knightdale Boulevard?
Someone's throwing me softballs, I guess. Bike Walk NC has a program for the year where we're all pedestrians. So even if you didn't walk here tonight, or I didn't bike here tonight because I didn't want to wear out my suit, but even if you just walk from the parking lot or park on the street and you walk somewhere, you're always going to be a pedestrian somewhere. So building the momentum, getting more people out walking, will have some of that effect. Because right now, when you're going down 64, you might not be thinking about somebody crossing to go over to Target. I almost got hit walking from Lowe's Food to Target because, and I don't actually blame the driver that much. You know, the car was parked and was stopped in one lane, and that right turn lane wanted to just kind of keep going. And so when I came around there, he was moving pretty good. So getting more people walking helps with that. It helps to say, we're here. You know, when you're in downtown Raleigh and you're used to seeing people, you look a little to the left again to make sure. So that's going to help. I think enforcement and education can go a long way. I think our community police initiatives, I think we could put some education into the schools, partnerships there, safe routes to school, that kind of thing.
So I think we made significant improvements in that area already. I mean, definitely room for improvements. When we moved here, there were no signalized crosswalk areas up and along 64, particularly around the commercial centers. We have those now signalized. We have markings. I do agree with Mark in that greater enforcement is definitely necessary. You know, the idea, if we went back to the earlier question around, you know, what would be an ideal, you know, vision of something, it would be that we had, you know, sort of like high top walkways to cross busy intersections. But ideally right now it's about making certain that visibility, awareness, and enforcement is more prevalent. I think that as we are continuing to build out and as we continue, and part of where we had the signalized crosswalks and markings was because of development that occurred back in Hinton Oaks, and that push to say, as you are developing, then these are the things that we require of that developer to help us move forward in the needs that we have, that sometimes the town is not able to bring forward, or DOT is slow to the draw. So we're going to continue to push more and more towards that and put it as a part of any type of development pattern, even like what we do now with sort of like the dedicated turn lanes into subdivisions and things, all thinking about safety at the forefront.
This is where I would say I would be one of 5, and I'm not an expert, and I would defer to Steve Morgan, who was in the North Carolina Department of Transportation, and ask him, what do you think? Obviously, you all have thought about this. I think about Cary. Their Cary Parkway is the same speed limit as Knightdale Boulevard. But they have curbs, they're like all this infrastructure that builds up that space where a pedestrian would be standing and then crossing, as opposed to walking into a median that is a ditch. But there's a lot there that I would think would have to change. For me, as a taxpayer, I would wonder, how many people does this impact? Is this urgent? How much will this cost? Is this like the best place? Because we're never gonna have enough money to do all the things we wanna do. So for me, I would have to push back on that and just wonder, like, is this the next thing that we need to address and the most urgent thing at this time, and do that sort of cost-benefit analysis. But if there were a grant from the state and they were gonna do that for us, the Department of Transportation, you know, I would be supportive, but I would have a lot of questions about what that would look like.
So when we talk about improvement of pedestrian safety, some of the things that we have done is definitely when we have developers come to get items approved, we make sure that if the area needs sidewalks or a crosswalk area, that we make that one of the things that we're pushing the hardest for as far as that is concerned. We do want to make sure that the high traffic areas definitely have the crosswalk, the pedestrian crosswalks. Some of the other things that we've done recently, we've done the rectangular rapid flashing beacon, I think I said that right, and made those improvements there as far as, and also improvements to stoplights. And so there's the curb extensions. So we have done a lot of work around Knightdale, and there are areas that we definitely look at and make sure that they're what improvements we can make in those areas as well. So when we talk about the improvement of pedestrian safety, I think that we're in the middle of doing that. We are pushing for it all of the time. Whenever we have, whether it's an applicant or whether it's a federal grant that came through or whatever the case is, we want to install those sidewalks when we can. We want to install those crosswalks when we can. So we definitely push for that.
All right. Now we're going to go into our questions from the floor, but before we do, let's just take a moment to acknowledge a few people in here. We do have some elected officials here. If you're here, would you please stand to be recognized? And to the town staff, you know, we know that I often talk about collaboration and how important that is. And we go by certain core values that are important to the town, and one is working collaboratively. So, none of this would be possible if it were not for the town staff. And these folks come in, and I know this from past experiences. These folks come in sometimes 7:30 in the morning, and they don't leave until 11 or 12 at night. And they should be commended for their efforts and all that they do for the town, and especially putting on a wonderful event such as this. So at this time, I would like to ask the town staff if you would please stand to be recognized. Thank you all. Okay, at this time, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Alexis, who would read questions from the floor. All right, in the meantime, I'm going to take a break. All right.
Good evening, everybody. I'm just going to lower this a little bit. I'm a little bit shorter than he is. Okay, so our first question from the floor tonight is, what is the most significant infrastructure challenge that our town faces, and what is your plan for addressing it? And we'll just keep going in the same order that we have been.
I don't know this
Wait a
one.
minute, it may be, well, can you give me the question one more time?
And the
I'm sorry.
softball.
I don't mind doing, I had a softball.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
did the softball.
That's right,
You're
yes,
up.
ma'am.
So significant infrastructure, only 90 seconds. So I would say the maintenance of the things that we have. So when you're talking about like the wooden greenways, you know, we need to replace those with concrete greenways. We've got stormwater ponds that are owned by HOAs, but HOAs really don't have the expertise to maintain them. And how do you solve the real issue while not raising everyone else's taxes? Like, I mean, it's a fairness issue, and so there are some of those things where there's older infrastructure that maybe predates the modern staff, and you know, it's how do you bring that up? So we chase those around town periodically. There's you know, water issues somewhere. We do a pretty good job on road paving, I hope. So if you have any issues with road paving, please let us know, or let staff know. They'll do a good job taking care of it.
All right, so I would echo Mark's statement. I think one of the biggest areas for continued improvement is around our stormwater for some of the more historical Knightdale neighborhoods. And as growth continues to occur, it puts more strain in those areas regarding water. And not just to mention that, you know, we have grown tremendously in understanding how to mitigate sort of the stormwater issues better. Every year there's more research and understanding around what that looks like, and it is above and beyond just big retention ponds that, as Mark mentioned, sometimes go without the proper maintenance because they're often privately owned. So we are putting more emphasis around that. I think that's an area that we can continue to improve upon. And I do think that in terms of general infrastructure, right, I think that we're good in terms of our water, sewer, and things of that in capacity, but I do think that there are still areas where we need to look at furthering out our sidewalks to make for more connectivity throughout the community.
Yeah, one of my concerns, and this actually, I'm going to traffic on this one. I think that and there's a lot of talk about affordable housing, which means a lot of high-density housing, new housing coming in. And we already have some real traffic disasters in some specific spaces in town that really lock up. Robertson Road hasn't been built out yet, and I can't imagine what Main Street's gonna look like, First Avenue, when that happens. Or if you come around anywhere in Knightdale Station when Bailey's is changing, or any other school is changing over, it's really difficult. And so I think a lot of those things need to be worked on. And then the other hand is, our town budget went from 26 million to 39 million to 46 million, I think those are the numbers. And it's in 3 years. our 3 budget cycles. And so it's one of those like, what can we afford to do and sustain and do well? Like keeping up with the greenways, keeping up with all these things. How are we handling this traffic? And also, I think there's some serious budget concerns because I know personally, I can't keep up with the taxes. The teacher salaries haven't kept up with all of these changes. And so, and the #1 employer of this town is education. So human services and education. So we're not keeping up. So I think that intersection between being able to sustain and keep things and being able to afford to do it at the same time.
I won't echo Mark and Steve on stormwater because we know that's an issue, and they've done a really good job at detailing that. I will echo Shannon with traffic concerns. It's a big one. We all know it's there. It's like that elephant in the room that, residents are upset about, but not realizing we also drive that same traffic. We know the patterns, we know all of these things. We're all upset that NCDOT is kind of blocking every avenue we have to get to Knightdale Boulevard. Trust me, I've complained to staff myself and they refer me to NCDOT, like they should. But it's one of those things that we also have to realize that we're saying traffic is a problem. They're trying to fix it. We're upset that they're trying to fix it while they're trying to fix it because it takes too long. And then once it's done, we go, oh. So it's more so of a patience thing. We know it. But again, when we talk about that rapid growth, this is what happens with that rapid growth. We're all suffering from it. There's not a town across the United States that's probably not suffering from rapid growth and from traffic issues. So it's not just a Knightdale thing. And I think the other thing to address is we talk about the tax increase and the budget increase and the different things like that. With the increase of housing comes an increase of budget, and therefore these things are, the teacher salary isn't anything that we can specifically do anything about. We know that that is a state and federal issue, but again, I think we can all complain about, not being paid enough, but yes.
The next constituent question, speaking of traffic, is they said they're concerned about the traffic on Knightdale Boulevard, and they wanted to know what can be done at this level to improve the traffic overall in Knightdale.
I really wish I'd have started the other one. It's a great question to which I don't know that I necessarily have a great answer to, right? So most of our road improvements are managed and handled by NCDOT, right? The town does not build roads. And this is one of those odd things where sometimes you have to break it in order for it to be fixed, right? As we continue to develop, we push up higher in the priority scale and ranking for NCDOT to make improvements to our roads and to the infrastructure. And so we're always trying to manage that in a way to where we aren't breaking it too much to where it's so far gone in terms of the repair aspect of it. But these are DOT areas, right? And these are where, those concerns oftentimes we can only advocate and we can push, and we can also, like I said earlier, take some of the constraints off by pushing developers to carry some of that, those improvements through access lanes and things of that sort, and we will continue to do that. But I don't know that I have an immediate answer for how we can relieve the congestion off Knightdale Boulevard, but it is one of those things that is continually registering as we look at traffic impact studies.
Yeah, I mean, it's because we don't have control over that, and do we carpool? I'm in a carpool right now. It's awful. Like, I don't, it's like we say these things like, oh, we should carpool and get on a bus or whatever it is, but it's awful. Like, carpooling is awful, and then to be stuck in this traffic with a stranger, it's not fun, and I don't really have an answer for that. I think one of the pieces is, again, making sure the resources we need are all here so that we don't have to go elsewhere for them. So whether it's, the restaurants, whether it's, with childcare. I know a lot of people can't get childcare. They're saying they're on wait lists in Knightdale. So then they're forced to go elsewhere and then, and come through here. So I think that that's really challenging. 3/5 of our kids don't go to school in Knightdale. I don't know if that is still a true statistic. I'm trying to find out, but that was a few years ago. So then we're also driving around getting our kids at all these different schools instead of all being part of this system and using our school buses and being here. So I do think there are a lot of things that put us out of our town and push us to drive more than if we, as we improve and become more centered, I think that might help us. But that's, big picture. I don't think that's going to immediately fix Knightdale Boulevard.
Yeah, Knightdale Boulevard and the traffic, I think, is always a hot topic button, especially because we definitely see high safety issues there as far as traffic accidents. But to echo what Steve said is, of course, that's in NCDOT's control. It's not anything that we control. We're all at the mercy of NCDOT. But what we try and do is make sure our staff is very knowledgeable. They do reach out to NCDOT. They work with them a lot to try and make sure that these traffic pattern analysis that we see, or these traffic studies that we're getting, how can we alleviate, and what areas can we alleviate? What can we do? When is the time frame of when work will start in these specific areas, and when will it finish? And so there are those things that we are trying to do. I think another thing that could potentially be something that helps alleviate that, as well as, increasing that public transportation like we talked about. When you get more personal vehicles off of the road, then that helps alleviate some traffic. So trying to work with Wake County, they have the rapid bus transit, and trying to get some of that out towards Knightdale more, and even out past Knightdale into the other eastern Wake counties, so we can try and collaborate all together. We do have what we call the East Wake Local Government Association that I created several years ago. So we collaborate with Roseville, Wendell, and Zebulon to try and get these issues looked at. And so we all work together to collaborate and work with NCDOT to try and pull some of these resources our way as an Eastern Wake, instead of just each county by itself.
So technically, I guess we could fix it. We'd probably quintuple our taxes because we'd have to take over maintenance of 64. Right now, DOT maintains that road. I bet Cary probably maintains some of theirs. So I don't think we want to do that. We could advocate for, say, a super street design where, you can't turn left. You can only go up and do a U-turn. I don't know the right answer because I'm not a traffic engineer. So I just focus on the what. And we all know we need to make it less frustrating to go down Knightdale Boulevard for that 2 miles. Truthfully, it used to take an hour to get to Raleigh. So in my lifetime, it has been much, much worse. But we still need to alleviate that frustration, because frustration just leads to bad driving. So figuring out how to alleviate that, I will advocate for everyone. I will say I can bike to Lowe's Food faster than I can drive there. I have a little basket on the front of my bike. If it comes off, I can walk in the store. If you're in Churchill, it's not a marked crossing. It's not technically legal, I guess, but you can really get there a lot faster than driving 4 miles around. So the more people that find these alternatives, whether it's, hopefully you find a carpool that does work. Share the ride and see, I think. So that's my piece. Try to find a way not to have to be more traffic out there when you don't have to.
We have time for one more question. So the next question from a constituent is, what will you do to advocate for more recreation facilities, private or public, for our families? 2029 is a long way away for a town recreation center.
Oh, it's my turn. I do think it's all about partnerships. So NCFC partnering with Wakestone to put in the soccer fields. It's a great space. Knightdale Station, there are a lot of different groups. I think it's Out of the Box is doing, they're doing HIIT workouts and Zumbas over there. And so I really like what you said about on the west. We talked about the Riverwalk, and that's going to be a difficult space to develop, especially with flooding. But I think that those partnerships and continuing to identify those spaces and evaluating where is the next space, and then also those partnerships. I think that part of it is, I think about our community survey. Only 500 people responded, and I think 250 people of the 500 were children. So I think it's like 250 adults in our town responded to the community survey. So I just am not the kind of person that is going to say, this is what we should do. Instead, I would try and make sure that we have a stronger sample size from our community on things like the survey. Do we need to make the survey more simple, and really get a feel for where people have needs that we haven't identified. It really concerns me that only 250 adults were participating in our community survey, and I'm a person that likes to ask questions and identify stakeholders and collaborate on whatever it is, and so I don't feel like that's a space I can say.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question one more time?
Yes, the question was, what will you do to advocate for more recreation facilities, private or public, for our families? 2029 is a long way away for a town recreation center.
I agree. If I can make them break ground tomorrow, I totally would. I won't lie to you. I'm very excited about the potential community center coming. But I can say from my own self, since I heavily advocate for more youth engagement, we've created things such as the Knightdale Leadership Academy that we just had a couple of months ago, where we engaged youth ages 15 to 18 in trying to teach them life skills every Tuesday for a month, and different things. I know, again, talking about Parks and Rec, when we talk about the STEM programs that they have, I'm constantly seeing them advertise for, the things that they're doing, whether the STEM program is something scientific, whether it's math related. So they are trying to engage these kids in different things. And so there are these programs out there. I think we push them out on social media. We do our community relations department is amazing. They push it out on every avenue of social media we have. We're constantly out there. Our staff in themselves, when we do these types of programs, they're constantly engaging, whether it's at an event beforehand to try and talk about these types of things and get the word out there that we're doing these. So I think, again, when we talk about it, it's just getting more involved with the community itself and getting more people to engage in these programs to get the kids active.
I'm hopeful that Launch Knightdale can help in this space. It's, so many of those smaller trampoline parks or things like that, they are private businesses, but they're small businesses. And so I know I've talked to people considering it. I might invest, but trying to figure out how to afford the rent and make that business work. And so by adding these retail nodes and more retail space, hopefully that should help make that a doable enterprise. We will certainly recruit, cheerlead, try to talk to people. We've had a developer, and I still remember it to this day, tell me, you wouldn't want to be the council that voted against a movie theater, would you? I still do not like that man because they did not do it.
So, I believe, and Shannon has mentioned this multiple times, the power of partnership, right? Our staff is a dynamic staff that is constantly working with our federal and our state delegates to understand where there are grants available, to bring shovel-ready projects to the town through grant facilitation. Our staff has been working with NCDOT on some land that they had remaining from highway construction, some mitigation land that we may be able to appropriate into a passive park. And then we're also pushing our development community to make certain that they're building in sufficient activities within their communities to keep people from having to necessarily put the constraints on our town parks and things if they don't need to or if they choose not to. So, we are always looking for engagement opportunities. And here's the thing. We've heard about youth over and over again. It's not just about youth. Sitting here as a senior citizen at this table, it's also about how our seniors are finding ways that they can be engaged within our community, so they can be active, so they can be in places where there's vibrancy. And so we are looking at that through a collaborative, and that is only going to come through partnership. Otherwise, as we've heard, we do not want to look at using that as necessarily a big tax rate push just to get the parks and recs more extensive than what we have.
Thank you all for those thoughtful responses. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you see what happens when you stay on time? We are ahead of time. Some of us will be able to get home and watch the football game or catch up on our Young and Restless or whatever. So this is great. So with that said, we will now move into our closing statements. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to summarize their platform and share their vision for Knightdale's future. We will start with Steve Evans. Sorry, dude.
No, you're not. Yeah, happy birthday, right? So, I thought about this coming over, what would be a closing statement, and I'm going to pivot considerably from that, because here's the thing. Two things can be right at the same time and also not make sense. So I don't like campaigning, but I do like campaigning. I don't like getting out. I don't like walking neighborhoods and putting stuff on people's doors and worrying about if somebody's going to come out with an angry attitude or whatever. But I do enjoy connecting with my neighbors, sitting in restaurants and having good conversations. I had a conversation with a neighbor of ours who stays around the block from me recently. Yesterday, my wife and I was out canvassing. And I mentioned to him about the upcoming election, and he was like, well, who's running? I told him. He was like, wait a minute, you're on town council? He was like, man, I see you in the yard and all. He said, I didn't know. And that's fine, right? I like that we're living in a community where we are not front and center with contentious issues. So I can sit here and say, I did, and take credit for a lot of things that have occurred over my past 4 years in tenure of this seat. But in the actual reality, it's what we have done. We have been a collective, cohesive council that is not about ego. We're not about self-interest. There are no individual business owners, developers, and people that's pushing for their agenda. This is about pushing for the collective value of our community and making certain that we find a way to do it without creating disruption. Because, quite honestly, Representative Robinson can attest to this, being in the General Assembly, no good comes from fighting all the time. You don't get things across the finish line, and we're getting things done here in Knightdale. So thank you, and I hope that you will trust me with your vote once again.
I am the only person here that's not one of the incumbents, and so the reason I decided to run was my tax bill. Like, that's what was like, what? How did this happen? How did I not know? I used to be so involved and connected. How did I not know? And I am on those lists. I've subscribed to everything. I'm not getting the emails or texts. So there's it's just like we got so big. And so the one thing I do really well, and I can tell you as a middle school, now high school teacher, is organize people. I can move 100 people through DC. When the mayor asked me many years ago, we need people to advocate for schools, we got 100, Knightdale 100, we had 100 citizens advocating for Knightdale schools constantly. When we had the bullets going through Knightdale Station, I learned quickly how to change the county ordinance. And I found the neighbors who knew how to read 100-page Department of Transportation documents that I didn't want to read. I found those experts. When I look at our social media, I think it's beautiful. The newsletter is beautiful. Everything coming out of Knightdale is beautiful, but people aren't connected to it. I'll see something on Instagram and it's 8 likes, and I think, how can this only be 8 likes? We're missing some connection, that we have these programs, but people aren't finding the programs. And so I think that is the thing that I could bring, and I think there are 3 seats, and I don't know if I am one that will really contribute in a way that you all think needs to be done. But I am a connector, and what I do is I bring people together, and around issues I find stakeholders. And so I think that's what I can do. I revived the Knightdale PTA at Knightdale High, revived the Booster Club. I was part of that. Worked through the firearm discharge ordinance, helped work through the Robertson Crossing coming in behind Knightdale Station with a plan that didn't get across the railroad tracks. And so I just think that that's the kind of thing that I can do well, and I don't know what's in our future. I really don't. And so whatever it is, though, as a public school teacher, I can tell you I'm prepared to unify folks, identify stakeholders, find divergent thinking, and continue that.
Thank you.
I moved here in 2014, and I fought tooth and nail not to move here. We lived in Raleigh, and I was like, what is a Knightdale? I do not want to move to Knightdale. And I quickly quickly fell in love with Knightdale. It probably took me 3 months, and I was trying to figure out what I could do. And I met Ben McDonald, who is a counselor on our town council right now. I was here earlier and had to leave, but I met him, and he got me involved in the HOA for Churchill. And so from there, it quickly moved to, what do you think about joining the Land Use Review Board? And then he called me, and I should not have answered the phone, but I did, because he keeps getting me in trouble. But then he says, what do you think about joining town council? And I was like, what? It has been the most amazing journey of my life. I would not trade anything for the world. Being able to serve my community at this capacity has taught me things I never thought that I would learn. The compassion in my heart is bigger than I thought. My mom used to feed an entire neighborhood out of our kitchen, and I would always just shake my head at her like, why are you feeding all these people and you're giving them away our food? I now understand why she was feeding all these people and giving away our food. It is truly about community, and when you are doing something that you are passionate about, you care about, a community that you love and you want to continue serving, it's easy to get up every day and continue to do this, even though sometimes the community may feel you didn't make the right decision when it came to that one development, or you didn't make the right decision when it came to, you know, adding some feature to the park, or whatever that case is. But I'm not afraid to talk to anyone in the community, because I know that we all have that same compassion for Knightdale. We all want to see it continue to grow, and we all want to love it here, and we all want to continue living here with our families and our friends. And so that's what makes me keep doing this. And so I hope that on this journey in November, you decide on Election Day to allow me to continue doing that. Thank you.
Sorry, quick rewrite on mine. Okay, so as a council, we've already published sort of our grand idea of what we'll do. The strategy, the strategic plan calls for safe, connected, inclusive, sustainable, active and healthy, and organizational excellence. You can see more about that on the town's website or on my website, votemarkswan.com. So the point there is, you know us, you know me, and so I hope you think we've done a good job. I really do feel like there are going to be times we disagree. There are going to be certain things that don't go the way you wanted them to go. I try and be very forthright and tell people when I disagree with them and try and win them over. That said, you know, knowing what you're going to get and knowing that you can reach out to us, knowing that we are accessible, I really hope y'all will help us build on our momentum, supporting the current council on November 4th. So thank y'all for coming out.
Thank you. Well, thank you, candidates. You know, when you sign up for something like this, sometimes it can appear to be a thankless job, but I've always looked at it as giving back to the community and paying it forward and identifying others and giving them an opportunity to serve. So I would just like to thank each and every one of you for your willingness to serve, and we look forward to November 4th. With that said, thank you to all of the candidates for participating tonight, and thank you, members of our community, for attending and engaging in this important conversation. Now, before we leave, I just want to quickly share with you all how deeply appreciative I am to serve as your representative for House District 39. I've had an incredible journey working at the community college for 31 years. In 2021, receiving an appointment from our then governor, Cooper, to vacate my position as the mayor and to go downtown and serve as a member of the House of Representatives. It has been an incredible honor and journey in serving you and fighting for you. I will continue to fight for you because that's something that I believe in. We have a long ways to go addressing some of the issues that we've heard tonight. But one thing I would like to remind you is our local entities, our county, and our state should be a partnership. You cannot get anything accomplished without any of those entities. I have been fortunate to work with the various municipalities when it comes to controversial legislation, to be able to have access to our town managers, our mayor, our council members, to get their take on what is good legislation, what is going to be good for our community. I would like to continue to do that, and I will continue to do that. I think it's the experience I've received from local government that positions me to be able to make those good, sound decisions. But you've heard some of these folks mention about collaboration, how important it is. We should not be in a position where we think we can work in silos or have a myopic view of things. We can get more done working in concert, working collaboratively. One thing that I am passionate about is core values, and many of you have heard me talk about core values. This serves as my guide each morning I get up and I get out and I go and I serve my constituents. When I was serving as mayor, we adopted core values. We call it the ARC. As you come through those doors, I believe it's still out there, right, Bill? Accountability, respect, and customer service. And when we implemented that, we were able to empower and engage folks at all levels of the town. And I think the town is better for it. I have a few other core values that I stand by and that I would like for you all to stand by. We're in some challenging times, but there is nothing that can stop us when we pool our resources together, when we come together as a community, when we come together as a people. These additional core values are integrity, compassion, kindness, but more importantly, love. Some of you I've met, some of you I've befriended, some of you I haven't met. But I am thankful to be in a position to serve you, and that's what I'm committed to doing. And I will do it with integrity, compassion, kindness, and love. And the staff knows me here. I'm one that's not afraid to say, I love you. And I think we're at a time where it needs to be said more and more. So I'll just say, I love each and every one of you, and thank you for the opportunity for allowing me to serve. With that said, thank you for being here. We hope you have a safe evening. Many blessings ahead. We appreciate you, and we're here for you. And don't forget to vote on November 4th. Thank you all. Many blessings. Good night.